All right, guys, it is Monday, April 19th, 2021. Today marks 9 days I have left to finish my 55 for Daryl Starbuck's car show. So, car's done, gonna make it. I've drove it all day today, it's finished. Okay, I'm lying. Anyway, probably not gonna make the show. Had more trash in the paint problems yesterday, and it's a really weird story. So if you want to hear a really strange one, here we go. So I spent, no joke, at least half of my day yesterday wet sanding the bottom of that deck lid. If you remember from the video before, I painted it and it had all kinds of trash in it, like I never even tacked it off. It happened again. Only this time it's worse. It is way worse than what it was. So here's what's funny. After I wet sanded that yesterday, wiped it all down with wax and grease remover, tacked it off. I used my little static charge breaker, which I think works. I painted that deck lid right here with no plastic. I didn't wet the ground, I didn't do anything. We didn't have hardly any wind yesterday, just like today. There's like nothing going on. Painted that bottom of that deck lid right there. I set that paint gun down and I walked over, I grabbed my glasses, put them on, and I looked at the bottom of that deck lid, and I am not kidding, there was probably 4 or 5 little speckles in the whole bottom side of that deck lid. I got a smile on my face. I was happy. So at that point, I grabbed the table that it was on and I drug it in here real easy, put it in the garage, because I decided I was going to go ahead and paint more parts and roll on. So, you know, I wanted to get the deck lid in the garage out of the way of the overspray so nothing got on there, and I also didn't want to overspray on the car. So I painted my cowl panel next. The cowl panel turned out fantastic. There wasn't anything in the paint on it. It looked freaking awesome. So I opened the garage door. I walked in between the car here and that door, and I put it back there on the table. I come back out here, close the door, and I painted the garnish molding for the passenger side, the A-pillar trim for the passenger side of the car. It turned out awesome. So at that point, I'm walking on cloud 9. I'm happy. I'm getting stuff painted. Some of the stuff doesn't even need to be buffed. I can just bolt it on and roll. So I had a bunch more pieces that I've laid out here on the ground that I wanted to get painted. And at that point, I decided I'm not going to open the garage door anymore because the door sucks. The springs broke, so it's a lot of weight to get the door up. And so I just decided I would paint a part, and at that point, I would transfer it to my shed. So I started doing that. I'd paint a part, I'd set the paint gun down, walk around back to my shed, open the door, and I'd hang it up in there. And then come back, close the door, walk back around here, and paint another part. It was going awesome. I was happy. Everything was great. After, I don't know, hour or 2 hours or so, I opened the garage door, and I walked right through there, and I just happened to look at the bottom of that deck lid, and I seen that. So I do not understand how in the hell that much dust can get in paint that quick. So it took the wind out of my sails real quick. At that point, I was done. And what's funny is the cowl panel and the A-pillar trim that I transferred in here after I painted, they look just like that deck lid, covered in dust. Here's the other thing. I wiped this car down yesterday with a wet rag, and it was nice. That is from about a 24-hour period, that much dust. So I don't know what's going on in here for dust, but it's like the dust is going to the parts in here. So this morning I get up, I go out there to my shed and I pull a part out, and it still looks awesome. So the stuff that I did and put in my shed turned out fantastic. I don't have to redo them. But the stuff that I transferred in here is junk. I'm gonna have to wet sand it down and do it again. So what's up with that? No wind yesterday. So opening the door, there's no big gusts of wind to blow stuff in here. So I don't understand it. But anyway, this morning I come out here, same thing, no wind. So I decided to paint a few trim parts. So I mixed up some of that Sim trim black, you know, and mixed reducer in it, shot it out of my touch-up gun. No trash. Painted it right out there in the open. No trash in that. No trash in the hood latch plate, and there's no even trash in the fuel regulator bracket that I built. I painted it this morning as well. So what is up with that? I get a better paint job outside in the open under the carport than I do in here. And I have painted a bunch of cars in here in the last 2001's when we moved in here. And I know the first several years of living here, I painted probably 3 cars a year in here. Never had this kind of issue with trash. I painted this car in here twice. Never had this kind of trash problem of what I'm having right now. The only thing I can think of is it's the time of year. With the changing seasons and the wind direction, maybe a different direction of wind, and pollen, because this is pollen. This is green. If you put a light on it, it's green. Or yellow, whatever you want to call it. Piss yellow, we'll call it. But anyway, it boggles my mind. I don't understand it. So now I'm going to spend another half a day wet sanding the bottom of the deck lid. I'm out of paint. I'm going to have to go down and get another gallon of black tomorrow. And more sandpaper. It is amazing of how much material I have wasted and time to get to redo these parts over and over. So I learned that painting in the garage is no good anymore, for whatever reason. Anybody got any ideas? Anyway, I'll take you out here to the shed and show you this. So there's a rear garnish molding I painted yesterday. Look at the finish on that. Awesome. A-pillar gauge pot I built. Awesome. Here's my windlace tracks. Absolutely awesome. No trash in them. I do not understand it. Another garnish molding down there looks fantastic. No trash in it. How is that possible to paint parts outside and it turn out better than in the garage? But what really gets me, now this paint, this single stage, when you shoot a part, even though there's 15-20 minute flash time or whatever it is, that paint stays tacky for a long time. It stays wet for a while. So it had plenty of time to gather stuff up and settle and get stuck in it. But now I get to sand it down and redo it. I am really pissed off about it, man. I am so over it. But anyway, that right there probably screwed me on my timeline, because I had it all wrote down on paper. I had a pretty good schedule wrote out, and it was kind of doable. And of course, anytime you ever write down a schedule, it always takes longer and it always costs more money. But I had a pretty good shot of making that show. And now there's a half a day I got to do on the deck lid. And even if I get the bottom side of the deck lid reshot, I can't turn it over on a table the next day to paint the top side of it. The paint would still be too soft because I don't have a bake booth. So, that deck lid needs to set a couple of days before I can turn it upside down on a table or stand or whatever to paint the top side of it. So I think that alone right there really screwed me up. But man, I still got to paint all the body panels. So I'm trying to figure out what to do for a paint booth. And I thought about hanging plastic out here in my carport. The problem is the plastic rolls that I buy are 20 bucks. They are not wide enough to reach the peak of this carport. It's too high. So the other thing about it is wrapping this with plastic. I'd have to use tape. Tape doesn't stick to plastic too well. At least none of them that I've ever tried has. Of course, I did get some from my mom and dad this morning. Some Gorilla tape that's like duct tape that is real sticky. And it might work. But even after that, I got to have a door. I got to be able to get in and out of that thing. And I need an area, thing to put a fan in it to get the stuff out. I kind of need a fan to get stuff in, So I think that's pretty much out. So what I've been thinking is the shed. Pull all them bikes out of there. Take all that junk that's laying there in the way and just stack it up against the wall over there. And then just hang plastic in there. Put plastic up on the top, on the loft in it. And then just plastic up the whole inside. And then go in there and paint. Problem is, I can't get a hood, deck lid, fenders, doors, all that stuff in there in one day and shoot it. I can only get probably 2 doors in there and shoot them. They're going to have to stay in there. So I'll have to wait until the next day to paint the fenders. And then the next day to paint the deck lid and the hood. So there's no way. It doesn't compute. 9 days, there's 3 days of painting. Well, how long is it going to take me to build that paint booth? Because I have to move everything out. So what I'm saying is, it's not really physically possible now because of this trash problem I'm having in this garage for whatever reason. All the stuff I painted through the years, and I've got to have this kind of problem right now. But anyway, nothing I can do. I'm still going to work on the car, but not going to get it done. But if I didn't have to put so many coats on the doors and the deck lid and the fenders, because I'm color sanding and buffing them, I got to put a lot of coats on, and you got to give flash time in between coats. So if you're getting trash in your stuff, every time you wait to put your next coat on is more trash that's going to settle. So by the time you're done, it's going to look like you painted sand. You know what I mean? So these garnish moldings and stuff, you know, I can put a couple of coats on them and be done. So, because I'm not buffing them. But the big stuff, you know, it needs to be in a controlled environment, a really good one. So I kind of got screwed around, and I really think it's the time of year. I think it's just the wrong time of the year. It's not a good time to be painting in a garage right now. There's pollen, and you know, the wind direction changes, and that's that type of crap, you know. That's my story anyway. But anyway, guys, this is your update video that is probably not what some of you guys wanted to hear, but hey, it ain't because I didn't dry, you know what I mean? Pretty bummed out, but what do you do? I needed these parts painted to get my color sanding and buffing done and hang sheet metal to start bolting pieces on. And I had a shot, but this trash and the paint problem is what's really kind of screwed me over. But anyway, I'm going to keep going, but I doubt I'll make the show. Thanks for watching.